It's answerable by yes or no. Should this not be tolerated by platforms? Yes or no?
But, Mr. Chairman, if I may. But Congressman, again, I want to just emphasize the point that people disagree. We're in a world right now when people disagree on what's true and what's not true.
Are you trying to tell this committee that you do not agree with that?
I'm trying to explain to the committee, Mr. Congressman.
Romeo Acop, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I proceed, Mr. Chair, I'd like to briefly manifest that the absence of a clearly accountable and empowered Meta entity here in the Philippines is a crucial issue. And I hope the Meta people would agree with that. As we have heard, Facebook Philippines does not control the platform, nor does it handle content regulation or policy enforcement. This makes it difficult for Filipinos to seek timely and effective recourse when harm occurs online. That is why we are exploring the idea of requiring accreditation or registration for social media platforms operating in this country to ensure that there is a readily accessible, responsible point of contact that understands and complies with our laws. It's a matter of accountability, Mr. Chair, not just for regulation, but for the protection of the Filipino people. And may I proceed, Mr. Chair? I'll touch on accountability, which was a little bit touched by the Honorable Gutierrez. May I ask, Meta, are you aware of the number of Filipinos who use Facebook and Instagram? Are you aware of the number?
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Congressman, I assume you're referring to here in the Philippines or globally?
Philippines.
Yes, I think the last numbers that we've reported were over 90 million.
90 million.
Over
Filipinos.
90 million.
Okay. And would you agree that you have a responsibility to these users to keep the space you provide them free and open? You have that responsibility, would you agree?
Sorry, do we have the responsibility to keep our platforms free and open?
Yes.
Sir? I think we have the responsibility to do the best we can to balance the rights of Filipino people to free expression, but also the rights of people to have a safe space on our platforms. I believe that's what you're getting at.
Yes. And because of such, the posting of false information and misleading news, the content that harms not only the subjects of the questionable post, but also the public trust in state institutions should not be tolerated. Would you agree with that also?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Well, the answer is yes or no.
I think, Congressman.
Would you agree with that?
Congressman, when I want to answer this question carefully.
May I know why you are going to answer it carefully?
Sir, yes, absolutely, sir. I want to say that when we come to topics like misinformation, there are different interpretations of that. And this is why we rely on third-party fact checkers to be the authoritative sources of what is true or false and to make those determinations so that we, as a neutral platform and one that is committed to providing, again, the best we can do to balance freedom of expression and safety, are not the ones making the determination about what is true and false. So I believe that we have the proper system in place where we rely on third-party fact checkers that are internationally certified to be the authoritative sources on what constitutes misinformation. And from that point, we have the responsibility to act on the findings that those third-party fact checkers provide to us. And if they provide us the finding that that's false, then we do have the responsibility, and it is in our community standards, to make sure we've reduced that distribution of the content and properly labeled it, so anyone seeing that content knows that they are viewing something that is false, and that they can access the authoritative source of information so that they can understand what the real situation is. And I think that that's the way that we do our best to make that proper balance of providing freedom of expression, but also safety for the people of Philippines and indeed our global community. And again, I just want to emphasize, even then we will go as far as to removing misinformation if it's clearly false and can lead to physical violence or violates elections law. Right? In those cases, we will remove it. And I think that that's the best that's the best system we've had over many years of dealing with these issues around the world, to kind of balancing to the best that we can those dueling objectives of freedom of expression and safety.
Thank you, Doctor. But my question was very simple, whether the posting of false information or misleading news content that harms not only the subjects of the questionable post should not be tolerated. It's answerable by yes or no. Should this not be tolerated by platforms? Yes or no?
But, Mr. Chairman, if I may. But Congressman, again, I want to just emphasize the point that people disagree. We're in a world right now when people disagree on what's true and what's not true.
Are you trying to tell this committee that you do not agree with that?
I'm trying to explain to the committee, Mr. Congressman, that the approach we have is based on remaining a neutral platform that tries our best in very difficult circumstances, in very robust democracies like the Philippines, where there are very charged political debates going on. We do our best to balance freedom of expression on the one hand and safety on the other, and that our view on the best way to do that is to rely on third parties to make the determination when it comes to true or false, or somewhere in between. And we think that that's the best way forward. And Mr. Congressman, actually, I would say, I don't think you necessarily want us to be the ones that determine what's true and false. I don't think you would want us to undertake that kind of that kind of power, basically. I think that, this is, in a democratic system, this is kind of the best balance we can possibly strike when it comes to how to moderate these types of issues on our platforms in the type of context that we have in the lead up to an election, for example. And I would just note again that we take our content moderation very seriously. We take our fact-checking program very seriously. We have 11 different channels between the government and our platforms to address any type of misinformation or other harmful content. We undertake network disruptions if we see that there's a coordinated abusive pattern when it comes to misinformation or disinformation or any type of foreign interference. And as a result of that, and I would just, again, in the last election cycle, we were given an award by Comelec for this work. And so I just have to continue to lean on that posture and on that approach as the best way that we can support the community that we have here in the Philippines.
Thank you. But as we have discussed earlier, that there are systems and controls in place to remove posts that violate community guidelines. So we can both agree that some posts do not belong on the platform.
Yes, we can absolutely agree. We can absolutely agree on that, yes.
You can agree with that
But
already?
there are some posts that don't belong on the platform? Yes, absolutely.
And as the platform itself, you would take action to remove this post?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And
If they violate our
therefore,
community standards, we would remove them.
yes, thank you. And therefore, it's fair to say that the platform has a duty to prevent the spread of such posts because they can cause harm. Would that also be correct?
Mr. Congressman, we have a duty to act on content that violates our community standards, and in some cases, specifically if it violates local law.
No,
that-
Doctor, my point is that you have a duty to prevent the spread of such posts because they can cause harm. That's the gist of my question.
We have a duty to remove posts that we're aware of that violate our community standards, yes.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, could I say that you recognize that Meta bears some responsibility for what is shared and posted on Facebook or Instagram?
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Sir, every individual user bears the ultimate responsibility for what he or she posts on our platforms. I think that it's important to underline that
That's
point.
a given.
That's a given, okay.
Now,
Great.
what
So
I'm asking is whether Meta bears some responsibility for what is shared and posted on Facebook and Instagram. That's
So-
my question.
Yeah, so what I would say is, we absolutely...
Do you?
Yeah, sir, if I may, we very much believe that we have a responsibility to provide a safe platform for our users around the world, including in Philippines.
That's your obligation. But my question is, would you bear some responsibility for what is shared and posted in your platforms? Yes or no? It's a very simple question.
Sir, I just want to be really clear about this again, okay? Our responsibility is to make sure that we are doing the best we can to balance between voice and safety, okay? And the ultimate
Mr. Chair,
responsibility, for the people,
Chairman,
for the content posted is the
I
people
think
that post
the
it.
doctor is evading the answer to my question. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry will say that it's answerable by yes or no.
Mr. Congressman, the ultimate responsibility lies with the user who posts the
agree.
content.
But what I'm asking is if Meta bears some responsibility. I'm not asking whether you are the primordial entity to be responsible. No, I'm not asking that. My question is whether you bear some responsibility.
Mr. Congressman, if I may, I believe I've answered the question that I think the user bears the responsibility for what they post on our platform. Now, we have a set of community standards that we do our best to uphold because we want everyone to have a positive experience on our platforms and a safe experience on our platforms. And that's what our community standards are for. That's what our fact-checking programs are for. That's why we take these hearings very seriously. That's why we have the 11 different relationships with the government agencies in the Philippines so that harmful content can be reported to us. And I think that's how we do our best, like I said, to ensure that people have a voice and the freedom of expression while also a safe experience. But as I said, I think the ultimate responsibility for content lies with the user that's posted it.
Mr. Chair, the questions I would be asking would depend on the answer of Dr. Frankel insofar as whether Meta bears some responsibility, and therefore, since he has said that he cannot answer me directly, I will not ask the other questions. But may I make a manifestation, Mr. Chair? It seems from our discussion that social media platforms are making some effort to curb the spread of fake news in this country. However, I disagree with the impression that acting merely as host of user-generated content exempts these platforms from any liability for the harmful content they allow to be exhibited. As part of our legislative duties, I think it may be time to revisit the current legal framework regarding these social media platforms, if only to incentivize them to further crack down on these types of illegal posts. Now, may I go to another issue, Mr. Chair? Yes, Mr. Chair. Regarding monetization. Doctor, can you confirm whether Facebook or Instagram allows content creators in the Philippines to earn revenue directly through the platform? Yes or no?
Congressman, I believe the answer is yes, but I want to make sure to check on that. I believe we have content creators that can monetize on our platform in the Philippines, yes.
Thank you. And would this mean that Facebook directly pays users upon fulfillment of certain requirements and upon reaching specific targets? Would that be correct also?
I'm not familiar exactly with the modality of payment, but again, I believe, yes, we do provide content creators with the ability to monetize here.
Thank you. And what are the means of earning through the meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram?
I'm sorry, sir, what?
What are the means of earning through the meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram?
There's different ways. You can monetize your content using something we call stars. There's ways that we can have partnerships. I think there's 2 or 3 different ways that creators can monetize.
Thank you. And are there specific content guidelines that monetized accounts must follow? And
Yes,
if so,
absolutely.
how are these enforced in our country or in the Philippines?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So there are content guidelines.
Creators, like anyone else, must abide by our community standards.
Now, is there a process also for demonetizing content that is later found to be false, misleading, harmful, or otherwise violative of the community guidelines?
Any user that is monetizing on our platform can be demonetized if they have repeated violations of our community standards, including repeated violations of misinformation. Yeah.
Now, can you describe to this committee the revenue sharing model? How much of the ad revenue goes to Facebook and how much goes to the content creator?
Sir, I honestly don't know the answer to that. I'm happy to provide that if we can take that under a question to come back to the committee.
And who would be the proper authority from your group to answer that question?
We can come back to you on that. There's a few questions I think that we're going to put together as part of the follow-up to this, and we can happily add that as one of them.
Thank you. Now, my last question. How does Facebook ensure that creators don't exploit the algorithm by posting inflammatory or misleading content just to gain more views and earnings?
Mr. Chairman, again, if I may, as you pointed out, sir, we have policies that will demonetize pages if they engage in repeated violations of our community standards, or if they engage in repeated instances of misinformation.
For curiosity's sake, can you provide data available on how much content creators in the Philippines have earned through Facebook's monetization programs over the past years?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I do not have that data.
And who would have that?
Again, we can take that question under advisement and see if we can come back with something, but that may also be subject to privacy, and so I would have to see what the exact question is and see if we can come back to you on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.